Okay, June 21st of 2025. I have to pick my battles right now in this house. So, Amari comes first. That's what's happening here, okay? I told you I'm going to be bound to the kitchen. I've already bound to the kitchen. I'm a dish maid, but besides that point. The food that I made him, that was 3 meals, 3 sittings. Andre said it was 3 sittings. And he was getting yogurt with it. Or he was getting fruit, papaya and cantaloupe pureed, which took up a fairly big bowl, like the same size bowl, okay? And that lasted 2 days. Right? So I have to do it again today. And I did. I ordered the 10-inch cast iron enamel skillet because I like it, because it's got the pour snout on it on both sides. It has the handle plus the, right? It's sturdy and I like it. I like the 8-inch, so I'm hoping the 10-inch is just as good. So keep your fingers crossed on that one. But, like, I don't know, people. I have to get creative here. So I'm sitting here meal planning around these cast iron pots I have, right? Or Dutch ovens or frying pans, because I've got a variety to work with here, right? That's the point. Okay, so here we go. Okay. As I go about my travels with this situation, I'm just gonna... Okay, here's a meal idea, which I'm gonna try and attempt to do today. I need to actually make 2 different kinds. Okay. One dish is going to be... I'm thinking about the 8-inch frying pan, right? Cast iron, enameled. We know that if I'm using a little 250 ml size jar of turkey, beef, whatever, add in the vegetables, put in the barley, the lentils, the amaranth, by the time I'm done doing all that, it starts to overflow. Okay, and that, what I made in that little pan was only enough for 3 feedings. In terms of we're giving him larger proportions. As well as he either got yogurt with it or fruit with it. So then along comes the 10-inch. So the 10-inch may or may not compensate for that particular meal, because what's going to end up happening is I'm going to not only measure it out in a measuring cup and write it down, but I'm also going to weigh it and get it in grammage, and then at some point after it's all said and done, I'm going to try and get a calorie count on it as a complete recipe. Because I've been traumatized by this stuff since the beginning of going into this journey, right? Because it's always about calories. And then, of course, it's nutrients and just whatever. And this is why people resort to settling with the drinks, because it compensates for the frustration of what I'm going through, never mind the rigmarole of having to cook it up, store it correctly, and use it within a timely manner so there's no wastage. And then you got to get right back up and do it again. Okay. But you want to do it in such a way where you have at least a 1-day reprieve. Okay. And it's hard when you don't have a functioning kitchen. All right. My, not to distract away from what I'm talking about, but Marcane came home and he had a little talk with Andre, right? And he didn't really talk about the way Andre was talking to me, outside of Nana has excuses too. Yeah, okay. I have excuses. Anyway, that will be another video. I'm gonna explore on that with Andre. He's not getting back that computer for a while. No way. Tisha found a sausage, a whole sausage, an apple core, and a pop can, way up high on on the mantelpiece. Like the mantelpiece is with rocks, right? And there's a little lip of something, and I've got some stuff up there way up high with Elvis Presley, my Elvis Presley doll. I don't know. Andre took a fucking sausage, a whole sausage, and stuck a sausage up there. Like, why would he do that? And when did he do that? Oh, this is what I mean. I told him, like, you're not getting back this computer until I know this shit stops. Like, forget it, man. I don't care. Like, you know, like, no. Like, you need to... Oh, you don't even know, people. So anyway, I'm gonna give him this flute. I have a flute here, right? And tell him, like, you know, because you know, Andres keeps an eye on Amari, and you know, he's in the living room, and you know, the computer keeps him busy, but it also influences him in a very bad way after a period of time because he's on it too long, and you know, it makes him aggressive because he's playing Call of Duty, which is like shooting each other and just being really, you know, we're just like whatever, like. You know, and then he gets negligent, and then he gets sloppy, and then he gets mouthy, and I don't know what to tell him today. I already offered him this flute. I told him, do you want to, you know, learn how to play a flute? Because, you know, that is clearing out my bedroom, right? I also have clarinets. I'll look for the clarinet. I just seen one. I got a couple of them. You know, he can experiment with the flute, the clarinet. I'm gonna tell him. Amari's waking up. I'm gonna tell him, is, you know, scoop up on a guitar, and I'll scoop up on a guitar, and you can start playing the guitar a little bit. You know, start strumming, right? Whatever, you know. Because if I give him back the computer, then none of that shit happens. And then he's just running around blaming everybody else, not taking responsibility for his behavior, saying he didn't do it, thinking just because he opened his mouth and says, "Oh, I didn't do it," makes it legitimate. Yeah, okay, that sausage got up there all by itself. You know, you can't blame Alayame for it. You can't blame Kyrie for it. You sure in hell can't blame freaking Rhea for it, and you can't blame me. And what, you gonna try and blame Tisha, or maybe Marcane put it up there when the one night time he came back by a month? And like, no, Andre, you did that. No. Hold on a minute. Okay. Let me put it to you this way. When I was 10 years old, I could clean a house like an adult. I was expected to do that. Okay. I could do 10 loads of laundry in separate piles in the kitchen on a Saturday morning in a ringer washer. So you put it into the tub, right, and then you run the clothes through the roller, right, and then you drain the tub, then you fill up the tub, you put the clothes back in, then you rinse them, and then you run them through the roller. Okay, do that 10 loads at 10 years old. And then take those clothes and hang them up on a clothesline. And then, after they were dry, take them off the clothesline and fold them up and put them away, as you were doing other chores around the house, okay? That's probably why I've been nothing but a fucking maid to my kids all these years, because I learned very young in life how to clean up. My family would have their Christmas dinners, and who do you think was washing the dishes with 12, 14, 15 people eating at Christmas time? Me. All right? So, you know, when Andre comes and just, he's 14, for crying out loud, people. And what's going on in our life in terms of special circumstances, because we, Andre and I, actually look after Amari, because I don't do it by myself, people, because it kind of requires two people to look after Amari. That's basically been determined, okay? You know, you got the day shift and you got the night shift, and you always got to have that ear, right, to listen for different sounds. And obviously you got to have the eagle eyes, and you got to have that heart of steel, and you have to have the commitment, right, with people around you either trying to distract you away from it because they themselves don't want the responsibility. So if you take on the responsibility, then somehow, you know, that's threatening to them, because when the rubber meets the road, you know, if something happened to you, they're not going to take Amari. That's already been established. And if they do, they're not going to have the same kind of commitment. They'll be the ones that, oh, the doctor said, oh, the feeding team said, just give them these drinks. Well, sure, splash coffee all over my computer. Right? You know, just give them these drinks. And then, you know, over a period of time, things are just... Anyway, okay. I'm staying firm with Andre. I don't care. I don't care. You were bored in there, where, whatever, you know, then here, play the flute, right? You got YouTube on the TV. You can Google how to play a flute. You can start to, here's a clarinet, right? Marina plays the guitar downstairs. You know, you and I'll sit with you and we'll start. And maybe if you can start learning how to strum a few things, maybe you can get Marina to teach you a little more. If you want, this is what we'll do, because, you know, plenty to choose from. Hell, I can even bring out the freaking electric guitar for him, for crying out loud. Huh? I want him to start selling stuff for me. Well, I can't because I don't have the computer. Well, yeah, actually you can. You know, Marquin got you a cell phone. You can do lots on the cell phone. You can sit here at my desk and you can post it on freaking Facebook, or you can manage my account or whatever. You can take the pictures. You got plenty to do. How about get back into drawing? You know, I bought you art kits. You don't draw no more, nothing. Like, And while you're doing all that, you can learn how to keep your environment clean. That's a big one, people. And with a good attitude. Otherwise, nobody's going to want to live with him. And I tell him this. And you're sure in hell not going to be able to look after Amari. I said to him, if Nana was to die today, right? And Marina and Marquin started looking after Amari, and you're in the house, who do you think's going to look after Amari, Andre, really? Who's going to pick up the frickin' slack? Who is Marquin and Marina going to turn to and say, hey, you know, keep an eye on Amari? Me? I said, exactly. But yet they don't fully support it, because they think, you know, he's 14 and he should be free and just bumble through life until he figures it out for himself, what he wants to grow up to be. In other words, don't take no responsibility for a family member that is injured by no fault of their own, even though you're the only one that's really been there since day one and every day thereafter since his mother died. Andre's the only one that has been there every single day since Shmei died, outside of me. And yes, if I died today, and Amari went, no, well, Marquin would come upstairs, they'd be like, well, okay, well, you know how to look after Amari. Teach us. Show us what to do. Yeah, right. Do you honestly think Marina's going to want to get in the kitchen with the daily grind for Amari when she can't even handle fucking communicating with me? She goes the easy route. She takes the oldest Andre because, you know, he's easy to, you know, he's not going to argue with her. He's going to, right, we talked about that. So if you're going to look to Amari, if you're going to look to Andre to look after Amari, at least until things are figured out, because you got one or two choices. You're either going to keep him or you're going to put him in foster care. Because Tisha's not going to look after him. She doesn't have the space. She doesn't have the patience. She's got germ phobia. You got a lot of germs with Amari because he's always leaking out and you're changing shitty diapers. And if you give him that MLX, it turns into runs. And, you know, it's just like... We never get sick, even though we're into contact with germs all the time. I tell Tisha, like, you know, you get sick all the time because you got germ phobia. You going around, you know, putting plastic this on and over-perfuming yourself, and then you wonder why you're sick all the time. But at the end of the day, though, Andre can't look after Amari by himself. You see, that's the thing, because he's too young. And if he doesn't shape up and, you know, and make an effort to clean up after himself and all that other crap with a good attitude, yeah, it's not going to work. And Marcane and Marina will burn out. The minute I die, the first person they're going to look to is to Andre. Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, they'll put their best foot forward and they'll give it their best effort. But once the reality sets in and the daily grind gets longer and longer, and you know, now you're into months, and then you're creeping into years, and Andre might be able to do it because he's been doing it since, like I said, Shemay died. It's just the computer is a very big distraction among other things that distract him in a negative kind of way. I'm not worried about the things that distract him that are positive, because I'm happy for that, right? But the negative stuff, so yeah, no, you're bored because, you know, on Marcane, like, well, yeah, you know, I can understand why you'd be frustrated not sitting in a living room with no computer. Yeah, well, there's other things in life. Hell, play the guitar, learn how to play the flute, play the clarinet, you know, find a harmonica, blow on a harmonica. I got a freaking banjo, for crying out loud. I got different kinds of drums. You want, I'll get you some smaller, and you can practice drums, you know, to start drawing. How about writing something, you know? How about keeping your freaking environment clean? Yeah. That's what's going to help him to grow up to be a well-rounded young person, not sitting in front of the computer 24/7, getting all cheeky and mouthy and lazy and sloppy and dirty and negligent, and so he can play Call of Duty or Fortnite, or no, he doesn't play Fortnite on the computer, but Call of Duty, and, you know, these are violent freaking games. And then Marcane and Tisha, oh, that doesn't influence him. Oh, no. Yeah, right. Alea May's already getting cheeky with Tisha. Alea May's only 6 years old, getting real cheeky with Tisha. Here it comes. Wait till she's 14, 12, 13, 14, 15. If she's cheeky now, chances are she'll be 20 times more cheekier. What you gonna do then, Tisha? Look back and reminisce what I went through with my cheeky kids, and now a cheeky freaking grandson. Oh yeah. As everybody's saying, well, you don't have to look after Amari. That's not right. You know, you should just be a young man and do what you want. But my son didn't really say that. He just said, like, suck it up, basically, I think, Buttercup. And, you know, and as for excuses, well, you're not the only one that's got excuses. Your Nana's got excuses, too. And I'm like, okay, so you know, what's he trying to do here? And I mean, I know I'm not perfect, so I figure I'm going to explore on that with Andre while the computer is out. I've got a chalkboard there. I've got a freaking wipeout board there, and I'll bring it out, and we're going to talk about excuses. Well, why is my house the way it is? Well, I've got plenty of excuses, to which some of those excuses my son likes to ignore, and because it reflects on him. Same thing with Tisha or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, I'm working every day, people trying to solve things, but there's only so many hours in a day. And when you got to do stuff like this, you're either going to take it serious and you're going to put 200% into it, or you're just going to let it slide. And you're going to give Amari processed foods along in combination with a whole lot of freaking yogurt and milk products to compensate for whatever. And then a bunch of drinks that eventually, for a kid like Amari, is just, it's not going to work. So, you know, and then when I die, whatever's going to be in this book, I don't expect people to follow up on it per se, because I think it really does take a special kind of person to be able to can and this is just one video. After I talk, I'm going to upload this, and then we're going to start fresh, okay, with the frying pan, our motivating factor, okay? It takes a really dedicated person to even think about filling up this book with different recipes, yada, with the calorie count, etc., right? Because it's just makes sense, right? And it's better for Amari. And so in other words, I'll have that recipe with the home canned ground turkey, yada in the frying pan written in here. And before maybe the next caregiver goes and home cans ground turkey for the better quality food product, they just might go off and buy canned turkey that's been processed manually through manufacturing in a store, which would have a higher salt content, and the turkey itself maybe not as nutritional as if you canned it yourself with less salt, or even no salt for that matter, depending on the needs of the child, right? And because you can can meat without salt, it's not necessary, right? So, and I'm like, well, why are you doing this? Ain't nobody gonna follow it. They'll take it and they'll say, oh, it's garbage. There's just a bunch of scribble wibbles in there. Oh no, I wouldn't do that. That's redundant. That takes too much time. That is unnecessary. Right? Why am I wasting my time even thinking about that there's going to be any value in this book with the way my head is going in the direction with this meal plan? Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, you got to do this, and this, and this. And of course, you got to make some food for Amari because that went fast. Those 2 bowls, giving him bigger proportions of between the fruit and what I cooked up, that went fast. It wasn't even 2 days. We had to start giving him other things. But it's important. It's important. And I do believe that if I can just get it there and maintain on the amount of whatever it is that I get there in terms of this is what I'm thinking to do today, and this is the point of the video. Because I'm not going to second guess myself. I'm not going to doubt myself. I'm not going to question as to whether I'm making the right decision when it comes to picking my freaking battles here. Right? I have 2 meals in mind. I want to take 6 eggs, a half a cup of whipping cream, maybe a cup of shredded carrots. Obviously, we're going to have some shredded cheese in there from the block, not the bag shredded cheese, but the block that you shred yourself. Okay, 6 eggs, a half a cup of whipping cream, maybe 2 tablespoons of butter, or 3, and then a cup of shredded carrots. I'm trying to think what other roughage I could put in there that would be nice, but we'll just settle for, oh yeah, I could do sweet potato or a yam or something. Anyway, we'll just keep it simple. We'll just start simple, right? 6 eggs, 3 tablespoons of butter. That's 1 tablespoon of butter per every 2 eggs. 6 eggs, yeah. A half a cup of whipping cream at least. And then I want to beat it with an electric blender. I want to beat it so it's fluffy, right? And honestly, if I had already grounded wheat, can you hold on a minute? I'm hearing something. Okay. 3 tablespoons of butter, 6 eggs, a half a cup of whipping cream, at least 1 cup of shredded carrots, and maybe up to a half a cup of shredded cheese. But I'd weigh the cheese. I have to think about how many grammage would be, because you don't want to overfill them up with cheese, because cheese can be constipating, right? Like a 1 cup shredded, like I don't know, I'd have to like 100 grams and then shred it up and see how much you get. Approximately about a half a cup of shredded cheese, I think. And then I don't have to beat the cheese in. What I have to do is I have to beat the egg, the butter, and the whipping cream. And if I already had my food mill out and I grinded some wheat for the day to make buns or whatever, I could put in a tablespoon or 2 of that wheat that's been grounded in the mill, which would be organic wheat. And if you use a farro wheat, like there's 3 different types of farro wheat. Comet Coruscant is a farro wheat. They're good for like a whey protein drink and those kind of things. So you make sure that right. So I'd grind up a farro wheat. As a matter of fact, I could grind up some farro wheat and put it into a jar and then put it into the freezer. And then as I'm cooking his meals, I could take a tablespoon of 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the size of the meal, sprinkle it into the meal, depending, whatever. And then that adds extra calories, nutrients, minerals, and protein, right? From what I understand. It's the proteins that you want, right? That's why you can use farro wheat as a protein powder for smoothies. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about the flour right now, but at some point I'm gonna end up adding, I think, flour into it, right? That's been pre-milled, or like been milled, right? That's been milled, because it is organic, and you get to choose the type of wheat that you're putting into the meal, right? Write all this down, and I don't know. Okay, don't worry about who doesn't do it for him after you're gone. Just worry about making a path, and hope that when you're gone, somebody will take serious your effort that you put in, because the whole purpose is to get him to start gaining weight here, people. I can't drop the ball. To hell with laundry. I have to put the jars away. I haven't even put the jars away yet, because, I get... And so anyway, just work around all that. Whatever. Of course, that morning glory is growing in the yard. Andre got a freaking wasp sting on his arm that's may or may not be getting infected. It's pretty bad, really. And it's not like he can go outside and do yard work anytime soon. Hell no. No, he wants to go maybe work for a couple of hours for Brad or something, but I'm going to tell him today, you might want to stop and think about that, because, this thing that stung him, it wasn't your regular hornet. It was some big black and white thing that came out of the ground, and it was aggressive, and it just went and freaking attacked him as he was walking by, right? Because we can't open the back door, and it's pretty bad, really bad, actually. And we'll see how it is today. He might end up having to go to emergency yet with it. Yeah. So no yard work's gonna get done, and what do you think's gonna happen? Right? I'm taking care of business on the inside, trying to get caught up with this, that, and everything else, as well as build on Amari's meal plan, because ultimately that's at the top of the freaking list here, people. And I'm going to get cut up for not doing something else. Fuck, I'm so tired of this stupid rigmarole. All right, besides that point. So, three tablespoons of butter, 6 eggs, a half a cup of whipping cream, a little bit of that seasoning that I like, which is I like it a lot. A little bit of seaweed, right? Sea vegetables for the iodine and those minerals. Just a pinch. You get a pinch here, a pinch there. Eventually, it all starts to add up, right? And blend it up with a. I have a bullet with a. I don't know how. Like I have to see how big a bowl. I can either do it in a mixer. I can do it by hand mixer. I just don't have the space, people. Like, this is pathetic. But I'm not going to think about that. Okay. I've got the little bullet that maybe I can do something with that. It has a little container too, but I don't think I can get, I don't know how much it holds. I have to find the right method to be able to blend it all up without, okay. Then I want to try, okay, when you cook eggs, you don't want to overcook them. When you fry eggs, you're overcooking them. They recommend boiling or poaching and not for a long time boiling or poaching, just long enough to cook them, because then you get the most nutrients. And that's what I'm thinking. So I want it, beat it up really, really well. Technically, you should probably throw in a couple tablespoons of flour just to help fluffing it up. So I'll just use what's available or whatever. I'll wait until I grind either or. Eventually I'll end up putting that flour in that I talked about. A little bit of salt, seasoning, whatever you want. And then I want to try the cast iron. I want to. But I don't want it to stick. Like the enamel cast iron. Because I want to cook I guess you call it like kind of like a souffle or something, right? You want to cook it slowly, but at high heat. So in other words, heat up the cast iron slowly, put some butter in it, make sure it's on the sides of the pan, the butter. Just grease it, right? Just grease it. You can add in an extra tablespoon or two of butter. Or I suppose you could use like an avocado oil or something, maybe. Or a peanut oil. Peanut oil. I got peanut oil. So maybe I'll do peanut oil. So a couple tablespoons of peanut oil. Make sure it's on the sides. After you beat the egg and the whipping cream, whatever, technically you should melt the butter lightly and then blend it, because I want it all blended in, right? So maybe I'll melt 3 or 4 tablespoons of butter, just very warm, right? Put it in with the milk, put it in with the egg, blend, 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 blend. So it's foamy and everything, right? Heat up your cast iron slowly. Put your peanut oil in it, because it has a high smoke point, so it won't burn, right? And then once your enamel cast iron frying pan is heated, turn off the heat, or at least turn it down to 1 or 2 or whatever it is, okay? You have your bowl of your blended egg mixture. Put your shredded carrots in it. Put your shredded cheese in it. Stir it around. See, this is where the flour would maybe come in a little handy, because I would suspect the cream and all that will be. So yeah, I think you're going to have to use a little bit of flour. A little bit of flour. So I'll have to find some flour. I have tons of flour. I just never get a chance to use it, right? Whatever. Okay. I have powdered potatoes. Instead of using flour, how about we try powdered potatoes? There's an idea. That would work. So I'll dig out the powdered potatoes. And I could even dig out the powdered asparagus. Here's an idea. Okay. So you got your egg mixture with the cream and the butter. Throw in maybe 4 tablespoons of powdered potato. How about that? 1 tablespoon of powdered asparagus. Your shredded carrots. Your shredded cheese. He's giggling now. Mix it all up. And your frying pan, because you brought it up, it's hot, hot, hot with the peanut oil in it. Make sure you leave a little, a little bit of peanut oil on the bottom where you can see that there's a little extra oil, but not too much, right? And your sides have been greased. Turn down the heat once you get it to a nice temperature, like, bring it up high, right? And get it nice, ready to go. I don't know if I heard someone knock on the door or not. Well, I guess if somebody's knocking, they'll knock again. Turn down your heat, put it on 2. Just give it a second, and then pour your mixture as is into the pan. And put the lid on it. And then just let it sit for 10-15 minutes and see how it cooks. And hopefully it won't burn. I'm not trying to scramble it, although I don't think it would make much of a difference because it's all going to get pureed anyway. So you have 1 or 2 choices. You can just put it in a wok pot, wok crock, like in a wok, big wok. You could cook it in a wok, technically, really, with peanut oil and just stir it around. But that's not the way I want to do it. I want to use the cast iron with the lid and slow cook it with the heat that's already being insulated from the cast iron itself. Do you see where I'm going with that? So I'm not overcooking the egg, but I'm cooking it through the heat being penetrated from the cast iron. Right? And as long as you don't turn off the cast iron completely, it's still going to retain that heat. So that's why you bring it up. Once you get to it where you think you might want it, you throw some water on it and it should spit, right? Once it gets to that point, that's when you put your egg mixture in, put your lid on, and turn your heat down to 2 or 3. I'd say 2.5, 3, maybe 2, it depends, right? Depending on your stove. And once you turn it down, then you pour it in. Then you put your lid on and you just leave it. Don't open it for 10-15 minutes. Depending on how thick it is. And when you do open it, just, take a knife and put it in. You pull it out. If it comes out clean, then you know it's done. And hopefully it won't burn. That's what I want to do today. I want to try that out. And I'm glad I talked it over with my friends here on YouTube, because I would never have thought about the powdered potato. And I got tons of that. I got a whole case full of 1 liter jars of powdered potato. Homemade potato powder, mashed potato. With milk. A lot of it. I should have some handy. I just, again, don't have a functioning kitchen, so I have to dig it out. I know where it is. And if I can't find it there, I know where else to find it. And then the second meal that I have to make today, because that's not enough. Hell no. At the rate we're going, that will be enough for 3 meals. Maybe 4. 2 meals a day. 1 to 2 meals a day. So it's a day and a half, up to 2 days. And that's just... Yeah, hold on a minute. Okay. Just get hot. Now, if you notice, I have a sweater on. I'm getting hot, cold, right? Because, you know, the weather cooled down a bit, but I think it's going to start heating up again because I can feel, you know, the house, right? So, okay, so the second meal I want to make, because that's not enough. That's nothing, right? That's only 3 meals over a course of a day and a half, maybe 2 days if you break it up into 4 portions. All right, because we're using those frying pans as our test subjects, right? Okay. So now the next meal will be, I'm going to grab 1 or 2, I don't know what I brought from downstairs. Those little jars when I made Amari was a baby. I need those jars, and it's time to, you know, right? So I'm going to use at least 1 of them, if not 2 of them, if they're the same. Like the bone with the question mark, with the peas and the beef and whatever, 1 or 2 of those, that's the starting base, right? That's where the home canning comes in. Versus opening up a can of turkey with the pull tab, which is a very little bit, right? Very small. It's not going to get you anywhere in life, and it's extremely salty. We're using my home canned goods, which is better quality food. All right. Even if they were canned years ago, it doesn't matter. All right. I'd choose home canned goods over that stuff, flake turkey, any day. Okay. I'm just using the flake turkey as an example. It could be anything, right? You know, Spam, freaking ham, canned ham, and like, you know what I mean, that kind of whatever. All right, so we're going to start with 1 of them anyway, 1 jar anyway, because we don't want to over inundate his stomach with quote unquote meat, but we want that meat in there 2 or 3 times a day, even if it's in smaller portions. So either or, okay. I can use sweet potato because I have that still. I got lots of that. So I'll use the sweet potato or a yam. The more orangey ones kind of tend to be more yams, where the whiter ones tend to be more sweet potatoes. Either or, I bought them as sweet potatoes. So I'm going to do the sweet potato, and instead of using carrots this time, because we've got carrot with the egg, right? I have parsnips. So I'll put in 1 parsnip with some sweet potato and 1 jar at least of that stuff. Maybe some extra broth because I don't know what I brought up. We'll figure it out. And I could do the barley again. I don't know if I want to do the lentils. I'm not going to use the beans and the peas that I sprouted, even though I ended up blending them up and I put them in the fridge. But I think it's been too... And I cooked them. So actually, they might still be good. So maybe I should check them. And if they're still good, maybe I'll use that. If not, whatever, I'll resprout and start over again, right? You know, okay? So the beans and the peas that I sprouted and then ground it up and then put in the fridge... They've been there for a few days, so I don't know what the state of them are going to be. But because they're beans, they could very well still be good. So if they're good, I'll use them. If not, forget it. I'll just and this time when I sprout them, I'm going to sprout them separately. I don't like sprouting the beans, the cantatelli beans, with the peas. I think because the peas sprouted first, right? So I would prefer to do them separate. So it's a learning process, right? Write it down. Okay, we're going to write it down. And so in the meantime, we've got the barley, the parsnip, whatever, it's in a jar from whenever, and maybe some extra bone broth. And then I have a beef collagen as well that I may put a little bit in, and we'll talk about that as well, to just, right? And parsnip, barley, put in some more barley, and I don't want to use red lentils, although I could, just for the sake of it, to keep it easy on myself, because he loved it. He just gobbled it up. Andre's snoring. Right? He just gobbled it up. He couldn't get enough of it. He really enjoyed it. So that's what I'm going to do. And then as for fruit, see, now you're going into another round. Right? I have the blueberries from the fridge downstairs. There may be some kiwi in my fridge that I haven't gotten to, and I'm hoping they're in still good shape. So if the kiwi is in good shape, I know the blueberries are still okay. I'm going to grind them up, put it in a bowl, and then he's got that. Plus I've got plums that I can grind up. That will last 2 days. Maybe 3. And that's not even, that's a whole day. And I haven't even cooked for Andre and I. No, because I'm using the stove now for Amari. That's why I want to bring out a hot plate. Or at least a crock pot. For Andre and I, and Amari. It's not just Andre and I, but Amari as well. But Amari requires specialty food, which becomes a special circumstances to which everybody around me does not understand. And I wouldn't even say that they respect it. Right? If anything, they work against me, because they just pile on more shit by blindsiding me because I'm so busy looking after Amari. Could you imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have Amari? But I do. And I'm not complaining. I'm trying to do right by him, right? And I kind of have to write this stuff down for several reasons. Right? One, so that when I die, there it is. It's all written down. You're either going to do it or you're not. I hope they do, but I don't feel very optimistic about it because of just the negative attitudes around being a caregiver. There's no love. Clearly. You can see it by just the way I get treated with my kids. Even though they're not kids anymore, they're supposed to be grown fucking adults and know better. Besides that point, though. And what was I all those years looking after them? I was a caregiver. Mari's just special needs, that's all. But I'm like really motivated with this, right? Because like what I just talked about in terms of the meal with the sweet potato and the parsnip and, the barley and that. I'm not even going to attempt to use that 8-inch frying pan. Hell no. That's going to be my souffle and something else. Because I got other ideas in mind, right? What I want to do with that little pan. Okay, we know what I'm going to do with it today with the egg, but there's another meal coming right behind it in that 8-inch, so that, when I measure things out, not only do I get the right measurement where it doesn't overflow, but I also know the grammage and the weight of it, as well as the calories at the end of the day, so that when I do get to the children's hospital, because I go there quite regularly, at least every 6 months, for follow-up with this or follow-up with that, I can just keep bringing this and saying, oh yeah, well, this is where we're at. This is the amount of calories that he's getting. These are the types of foods that he's getting. And if he's not gaining weight, people, then it's something else. Yeah. But we're not going to know that until I can get this running like a smooth engine. And it's difficult because I don't have a functioning kitchen that gets congested with shit in it, that, like laundry that doesn't belong in a kitchen. That's a big one. Or, just whatever. You require more appliances, more pots, more containers. You need more counter space. And then if you're canning, like I do, right, because whatever, then it all adds. So then it becomes an excuse. Because I do it to myself. Whatever the excuse is in terms of Well, Nana doesn't need to do food prep. She doesn't need to can, because if she didn't can, she'd have more space. Yeah, but I'd be resorting down to buying over-salted flaked ham in a pull-tab can, where I'd have to pay $8 for 2 cans just to put into the frying pan to get the grammage that I want. Never mind, I'm not getting the nutrients that I want. I'm just getting something that, compensates for what I can, which is a better quality food at a higher grammage, because I get to choose the size of the jar and the amount of salt that goes in it. Speaking of canning, so we know I'm going to make 2 meals for Amari because he's first on the list. I don't care what's going on. Okay? And that will be, and plus I have to factor in the fruit yet. Right? And I already think I know what I'm going to do with that. I can do blueberries and plums, or I can do blueberries with kiwi, as long as the kiwi is still in good shape. Right? So we'll have a bowl of fruit. Plus I bought apples. I can cook apples, and I can open up a can of pears and puree that, which I'm thinking to do. And then the blueberries I can puree just for the sake of pureeing. And because when we give him his main meal, it's either give him yogurt or give him fruit, so that he's even getting more. But this is where, and you heard Andre say it, we get scared, because right now he's eating it. It's no prob, but it's not coming out on the other end. And, like, we're having to give him this Emalax. I don't know if he got it yesterday, but he's definitely going to get it today. But even if it's not working fast enough, then what? There's going to come a time when it's just going to come out, because there's no room in his stomach. Because the food that we've been feeding him is sitting there not being digested, because just whatever. But you can't let that stop you. You can't let it frighten you from feeding him good nutritional food in larger portions where he's happy with it. Because if he doesn't want to eat, he'll push it away, and he'll just, right? So you just stop feeding him. But he's a gobbleguts. Yeah. It's just, you have to be, I don't know, a super chef or something. A super chef Judy. Yeah, that's about it. So for the second meal with the parsnip and whatnot, I'm not even going to attempt to use the 8-inch. But we got the 10-inch coming in on Sunday. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it's a little bigger. If it's the same size, I'll be choked. But besides that point, that's okay. I can do something else with it. So that means I'm going to pull out a different, a Dutch oven. I'm going to pull out a Dutch oven for the one with the meat in the jars, in the bone broth that I canned, and the sweet potato and the potato or whatever, right? Sweet potato, parsnips is today. And barley, and if those beans are fine, I'll put the beans in, right? And that kind of, okay. So I'm going to, now, those little cast iron little ones, they're not big enough. But I've got other sizes, Dutch oven. I just have to decide which one I want to use. Because you don't want to make too much, but you don't want to make too little. Because you only want it good for 2 days, no more than 3 days. And when Andre was giving it to him, he was either giving it to him cold with yogurt one time, because it's tasty, it's good cold, right? But then I say, no, he needs also warm food, because it's good for the digestion, right? So this time you have to warm it up. And make sure that you give him sips of milk in between as you're feeding him, because drinking helps with the digestion as well. So I have to pull out a different size cast iron. But at the same time, I'm ordering on Walmart a little bit, because one, I'm depressed. I ordered extra yeast yesterday from Canadian Superstore, and I got, guess how much money I got back? I spent $181 basically on yeast and cornstarch. And I bought a box of garbage bags for $10 and a bag of Macintosh apples for $10. Where the yeast and the cornstarch, my bill was $181. That was a $5 tip included or something like that. And I got $56 back on PC points. Because I told Andre, now that this mill is here, once I get it out on the counter somewhere, that's it. I'm not buying bread no more. I don't care. So I have no regrets buying that yeast, because those ones, and then I bought different kind. What I have in my room is just traditional yeast. We'll use those obviously, but I thought I'd get the pizza yeast, the bread machine yeast, and the quick rising yeast to give Andre a chance to experiment with different types of yeast, to motivate him to make his own dough so he can make a little pizza and put it in the convection oven, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm just using that as an example, right? I said, once you start, Andre, and you start learning how to do it, you're going to like it, trust me. So, I have to can today, and honestly, I got to do dishes. Like I said, you got to be a super chef here. Like, both sinks are filled with dishes. Because Andre likes to fry eggs and this macaroni and blah, and he just piling up the dishes, piling up. I mean, there's like 3 freaking frying pans in there, for crying out loud. That takes me 2 hours, 3 hours just to wash the dishes and shit. I haven't even put those jars away yet, and I have to wash those other jars. How the hell am I supposed to be cooking for Amari? I'm going to have to, though. So in the meantime, though, I'm on Walmart, and because I've got the, and I'm almost at the end of this video, okay, people? Because I got that marrow growing in my yard, and I don't mind it. I've eaten it. It's okay. It's a little, I don't want to say grainy, but it's not like your regular leaf, right? It just requires a little more chewing, or maybe a little more cooking in terms of it's not like a spinach where it kind of disintegrates the minute you cook it, right? So, but I'm pretty sure it will pressure can really good. Oh yeah. I already know what I want to do with it. And being that what I'm doing right now, I want them canned in 2 different ways. I want them canned in pint-sized jars for Andre and myself and Amari when I do the big meal, right? Because whatever's in the big meal, we can scoop out and grind it up for Amari, and he can have that, right? Okay. The things that I make separately for Amari is to be able to feed him consistently without interruption, where it works for him. Unless, of course, there's something wrong with his digestive system. But we won't know that until I get to that plateau. I haven't been able to be at that plateau yet. I have to take it past the plateau. And that's what we're doing right now. But I've been somewhat there, but just not, I don't know. So, I have to can the raspberry that's in the fridge today, that I got from the freezer with and I cooked it, and it's got sugar in it, and I'm sure it's fine. And it's just 20-minute, 15-minute boil in a water bath in the canner. So I have to wash the jars, put them in the oven. This is where you want to sterilize, at least for a little while. So I'll just do 250 ml size jars. It will take up a case. And I'm going to seal it and put them away, and I'm going to use them as I do whatever I'm doing, okay? And then I'm going to order 7 bunches of spinach. I'm going to order 7 bunches of spinach, 2 bunches for us. Technically, it should be 3. It should be 3. 3 bunches for us, all 3 of us, for the here and now. 5 bunches to use with the marrow plant. In other words, go outside, pick some younger leaves. I will can the larger leaves as well with the larger stems. I will attempt to do that, but for now, or I'll do a Mod Podge of both. We'll see. It doesn't matter. I just know that I'm going to gather some up, prepare them, stems and leaves, give them a quick stir in the pot, the big pot, to half cook them. Just cook them, right? Because you're going to have juice because the spinach will be mixed in with them. So whatever juice is there will also be going into the jars. So I'm not losing any nutrients there. And then after the fact, I'll top it off with water. Okay? And I'm combining the marrow with the spinach. I'm shopping on Walmart. I wanted to get kale or maybe Swiss chard, but they don't have that. All they have is bunch spinach. So I'm just going to get some bunch spinach and we'll try that first. And because I have 250 size milled jars, I'm going to can them in that. More for Amari. Yeah. Here's your pot. Pop it in like you do with the 250 mil ground turkey. Pop in your spinach with your marrow, and then you build around that. Do you see how that's working? Okay. And then when I have more time in a couple of weeks from now or so, then I'll can in the same kind of idea, like either marrow with kale, marrow with Swiss chard, or marrow with spinach in larger jars so that when I make meals for the family, we all eat it. But I need for Amari. And I can still use those small ones for our meals, but I'm thinking more what would work for Amari. So I have to do that in the next day or two. Because the canner is in the kitchen, which is like an albatross. You know, it's on my stove, and once I start cooking for Amari, it's on the floor, and there's other crap on the floor, and then it becomes an excuse. No, it's not an excuse. It's just a fact. So, and then as I can those, right, I'm trying to be creative here, because now that we're going to start eating this marrow plant, the Koreans, they make a little sauce. And I'm like, oh, they never did tell me how to make the sauce. So I'm going to have Andre look on YouTube for different types of Asian sauces that he can start experimenting with how to make at home, and tell me what I need to buy so you can make these sauces, right? And then, because that's what we're going to start eating, because we're on the farms. Right? I mean, yes, I understand. Maybe next year we'll grow some kale. Won't Mrs. Gill be happy? Well, there's actually food growing in the yard this year. But Judy, like, how did you manage to do that? Well, I don't know, Mrs. Gill. I need the kale because I like the marrow plant. It goes really good together in terms of meal planning. So why buy kale when I can grow it, right? Well, it's the same thing with that marrow plant. I got it, so I'm going to utilize it because I'm on the farm and I'm grateful to have it. So in the next day or two, probably not today, but definitely when the spinach comes, I'm going to cook up the spinach. I'm going to put it in a bowl, and I'm going to have it ready so that when I'm ready to can it, the marrow, I'm just going to go outside, get it, prep it, combine it with the spinach, put it into the jars, put it into the canner for 70 minutes, and I'm good to go, and I'm rocking, and I'm happy. And then in a week or two, when I've got a little more time, right, and I'm, that's when I'll go with the 250 mil, and I'll either do kale with barrel, and I'll do maybe 6 jars of that. I'll do 6 jars of freaking Swiss chard with the marrow outside. I'll do just 6 jars of marrow and nothing but marrow, and I'll do 6 jars of spinach and marrow. So that's 2 cases. 2 cases, and that will get me throughout the winter. And I'll make sure I use it, because I'm on the farm. I don't want to be spending a whole whack of money in the winter time if I don't have to. Just the bare bones. Yeah, when it comes to eggs or something, and even then, I've got egg powder downstairs. You've seen that in Auntie Shamay's video when I was down there in her room. We need to start utilizing that, and the powder milks. Okay, that's what we're going to be doing, because we're on the farm. Okay, I tell myself that every day. You're on the farm, Judy. Just stay with that. That's a good concept to have, right? You know. And what are farmers? They're strong people, okay? This is where you need to be strong, and you can't drop the ball. So as I'm thinking about this marrow plant, I'm like, okay, well, we need to learn how to make some Asian sauces that we actually like, right? But I don't know what to do, and so I found this style chili oil. It's an Asian chili oil. It actually has a fair amount of calories. It's a soya bean oil with chilies, I guess, in it, and whatever other flavors, and the calorie count on it, to be honest with you, is quite high. I'll tell you what it is right now, and depending on how hot it is, I could, instead of using salt, really, I could put a tablespoon of that oil in with these marrows that I'm cooking up as I'm canning them. Try it out in a few jars. So for 1 tablespoon of this oil, the calorie count is, where is it? 90 calories for 1 tablespoon of this chili oil. It says it has 2% iron. Okay. In terms of salt, 1% gram, or 1 gram protein, no sugar, sodium 440 mg, which is 18%, which is probably high, right? I'm not very good with that kind of stuff, so even if I did a half of a tablespoon, that would still be fine. Or even a tablespoon, depending on, you know, like the bigger jars and that kind of stuff. The point is I'm going to try it. Canning a few jars with this oil when we're not trying to make our own sauces for this plant. Yeah. And what does it have in it? It has, what's the ingredients? The ingredients are soya bean oil, and I want to taste it, because if I like it, then I'm going to see if I can learn to make it myself without having to buy it. But for now, I'm just going to buy 2 jars and check it out, right? Soya bean oil, because if that was the case, I would use I bought oil that's, I can't remember what they call it, sesame seed oil? No, it's not sesame seed oil. I have that though. Saffron oil, I don't know, it's some kind of oil. Anyway, maybe I have peanut oil. Okay, either or. I would use a different oil, but anyway, in this case, it's soybean oil, water, dried garlic, easy enough, chili peppers, easy enough, powder, I got that, salted chili peppers, easy enough to create for yourself or whatever, right? Chili salt, okay, sauce, soy sauce, that's easy, right? I just wouldn't know how to combine it to make it taste good, so I wanted to see what this would taste like, so I know what to shoot for. Water, salt, soya bean, wheat flour, I'll have plenty of that. Salt, sesame seed oil, I've got tons of that. Sugar, disodium, insinate, and glutamate. That would be a preservative of some kind. So mine wouldn't have that. So this is just to get us started so that eventually we can learn to make our own sauces. And being that I'm canning the marrow, I'm thinking about the Koreans and the Asian sauce. So I thought I don't want to assume that they're dead, but they were pretty old. They were like 92, something like that, when they moved out of that house. But in memory of them, right? In tribute to them, I thought maybe I'd try and put a tablespoon or maybe half of that in these jars as I'm canning them. Not all of them, but try it out, try it out. And if you like it, then yeah, do it in other things as well. So I'm going to buy a couple of those, and then there's something, and there's another one here. Where is it? Which one is this one? This is where my eyes go wonkers. Wonkers, completely wonkers. And then we've got a sweet soy sauce. I've never heard of sweet soy sauce, so I thought I'd order 2 jars of this to try it out. And what's in here? Let's see what this one's about. This one, not so many calories, but it's a sauce, right? So yeah, 1 tablespoon, well, actually 70 calories. That's not too bad for a tablespoon. And then you get 2% calcium and 2% iron. That's not so bad. Yeah. And then you get, in terms of ingredients, this is what it is: sugar. This is the stuff I do when I plan around like Amari's meals and stuff, or when I buy groceries. I'm always looking at what's the ingredients are, and yada yada yada, and definitely calorie count, right? Sugar contains sulfites, soy sauce extract, water, salt, soya beans 2.6%, wheat, water, salt, color, plain caramel, preservative, sodium benzoate, acidity, which is a regular, which it would be citric acid. I have that as well. And a thickener, which is an annex, then gum. So, get the taste, find the taste, and then eventually try and make your own. Where as a thickener, you can either use arrowroot, you can use cornstarch, you can use, what's that other one? Oh, I can't even think. I got tons of it. Tapioca, you can use tapioca, right? You can use, I don't know. At least you have a choice of those 3 for sure, right? Yeah, so I got 2 bottles of that to try it out. And I'm going to order 5 spinach, cook it up today, if this gets delivered today. Put them in the fridge, and then the next day or 2, I'm going to start canning the marrow, because I need it, and I will be using it. And maybe I think these videos are probably going to, unless, crap happens, and of course everything comes to a screeching halt, because people don't want me to do positive videos or have, look, they don't, right? They don't think it's, I don't know, like, there's, who knows, people. I mean, I'm always blindsided. I don't know what's going to distract me away from this. It will be some crises of some kind, very well, right? I'm not out of the woods yet, right? The fucking things are growing on in the yard, and, it's like, but Andre can't really do anything right now. Like, this might become very serious. It's hard to say. But I have to feed Amari. And I don't want to be spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on green leafy vegetable when I can can up a whole bunch of leafy vegetable in my yard at a fraction of the cost. And then hopefully I'll still be able to see somewhat next year. And then, yeah, I'll attempt to grow some kale, some Swiss chard, those things, and do the same thing. But who knows? Honestly, who knows? And I asked God, why? Why are you trying to set me free from this? In terms of what's the only good thing that comes out of you becoming blind? If you had to say what will come good out of it, well, you won't be bound to the daily grind, because you just won't be able to do it, and your body will have a chance to rest, because you just can't do anything, right? And then I guess the second thing would be, well, hopefully I'll be able to write children's songs, because that would probably be the best thing for me to do in terms of, being productive as a blind person. Outside of that, nothing. And I'll probably lose a lot through that process. But I can't stop everything because of that potential future due to fear. So, regardless of what people have to say, I don't care who it is, Amari is not an excuse. Amari is a special circumstance where it's not his fault. Okay, so I'm going to finish this video. It's already 10 o'clock. Oh, how time flies. And I've been up since, 4:35, something dumb like that. And needless to say, I couldn't get motivated to do dishes and get onto that daily grind. And, I have to remember my hip is going out on me. I've done something to myself. Ever since Rhea did whatever Rhea did, and I'm climbing and bending and being a contortionist, I pinched a nerve, or maybe I'm just getting old or something, and I put in long hours. And okay, so besides that point, not going to feel sorry for myself. I have a plan. I know what I want to do today. I'm putting Amari first, right? Going to start cooking. I'm going to get into the kitchen, start washing dishes, so I can get on with the main goal for the day, right? And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And just pace yourself through it, people. When you kind of get overwhelmed with shit, and you have to pick and choose your battles, and just do what you can, eh? Well, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm looking forward to bringing out another cast iron Dutch oven this time for the main meal with the home canned meats or whatever with the sweet potato. This time we know we're going to use parsnip, and well, I'll do a video on it, right? Just again, if you don't want to watch the videos because you find what I'm cooking up for Amari to be boring or whatever I got to say, well, so be it. It is what it is. And I'm going to make preparations to can that marrow this year. I'm going to can up a fair amount of jars with it in different ways, and I'm going to do the raspberries today for sure. Before that's, I don't want them to go to waste. Plus we've got raspberries that Andre needs to pick, and I'm going to end up canning those in quart-sized jars with syrup. And that all takes time, and it's not an excuse, people, because it's just not. I'm on the farm. I don't appreciate being locked out of Auntie Shemai's room to the degree that I've been locked out of. I don't appreciate my 14-year-old fucking food storage area being dismantled with jars disappearing, literally disappearing, and with empty boxes ending up in Auntie Shemai's room. That's money out the fucking door. They didn't put those jars somewhere else. They fucking got rid of them. There's boxes missing out of there with fucking big boxes, probably with wheats and shit. Who knows? Barleys or what is that called? there's another what is it called? I can't think of it right now, but just like, it's like this. I hate my life, man. People just, they have no clue. Until you have a disabled child and you get traumatized with the rigmarole around it, I don't want to call it a burden. It's not a burden. It's not his fault, right? You can't see it as a burden, but it's a rigmarole, and it's very emotionally, physically, psychologically draining, because you're coming into contact with people with high expectations, whether it's professional or whether it's just an opinion, but yet, you're the one that's left holding the bag, and then you get, gang stalked because of politics, where, you're going to end up with, if you think you've got a dysfunctional kitchen right now, wait until you move out of this house. How the hell am I going to do all this shit in a smaller place, like with a dinky kitchen with quite possibly fucking mice running around in the environment? Because that's what the government has brought it down to in the end, people with the corruption, just within our society in general. But you can't worry about that just anymore. I can't worry about, well, Jesus Christ, Judy, when you die, ain't nobody gonna do what you did for Amari, okay? Never mind do it for years and years and years, and then try and up the freaking ante yet, where you even get better at your game. Yeah, I am, Super Chef Judy. Ha ha ha, that's gonna go into my title. Amari's Cookbook / Super Chef Judy. Ha ha ha. Because everybody's laughing at me. For the ones that wouldn't dare enter my realm, and then it would criticize me and cast judgment on me and call me this and call me that. Not because what I'm doing is less important than what they do. It's just they won't do it if the rubber met the road. So after I'm gone, wherever Amari goes, this has to follow him. And maybe he'll get a God moment. And his next caregiver, whether it's Andre or whoever, because Andre's capable of it. He's just not old enough for it yet, and he needs to learn some life skills, and he's not learning it with the computer. And I don't care what anybody says. It's not the computer that's the problem. Yeah, it is. You don't live with him. I do. Arcane. It's not the computer. It's not the games. That's not the problem. As he's telling Andre, I'm just full of fucking excuses here. Yeah, okay. Come in the kitchen and work with me, Marcane, for a couple of days and see how long you last. I dare you. And then have to go back in the kitchen and do it again and again and again and again. It's one thing cooking for yourself, your wife, and letting a couple of plates of food come upstairs every now and then, compared to having to deal with what I deal with. But besides that point. And it's nice to know that you can afford to go off and spend $400 on kale, this, that, and everything else over the winter, where all I have to do is go to my pantry and it's already whatever canned up, even though it might be more marrow than kale. But the point is you still have that roughage, you still get those vitamins, and you still get that what is it, the green part of the vegetables, cauliflower or something. It's right. It's not as green as the kale. It's not as green as the spinach, but it's still green, right? And if you add in kale with it when you can it, and a half a teaspoon a half a tablespoon of freaking chili oil, you're going to not only get a little extra calories in there, but you're going to get some good nutrients in there. So, I dare you to do that. Yeah. But they won't. And because they won't, somehow I'm the problem. And I'm getting an upset stomach, and I haven't even started my bloody day. Because I'm stressed out, that's why, and I'm tired. But I'm up for the challenge. I just have to start with dishes, and I've been struggling trying to figure out where I'm going to put these jars. Ugh. making space in my head. I have a little bit of space. I didn't want to put jars there, but I have no choice. I'm going to put them there. That's up against the wall on the bunk bed in the back, where I have the peanut butter and his plums. And then, yeah, that's where I'm going to put that's where I'm going to put the kale. But whatever, I'll figure it out. I have to go downstairs. I'm just going to have to tell my son, that's it. I have to come down a couple times a week. I need to reorganize. I have to de-spider, and I want to take down that shelf, and I want to put up whatever. There's things I want to have access to the food. I want to build in a better meal program for Amari with the things that I have in the house. I want to build in a better meal program for us upstairs, right? And if you want to be a part of that process, so be it. If you don't, fine, but don't expect me to not have access to it just because somebody is operating at a grade fucking 2 level here, and in terms of maturity when it comes to holding people hostage to their house because you can't handle fucking reality, whatever that reality is at that moment. I handle reality. I'm trying to handle reality. I'm trying to work with the feeding team. I'm trying to work with these doctors that I come into contact with, Mari. I want to be able to go to them with the right kind of information. And I want to be able to prove that I just don't talk. I actually do the walk, right? So that, he can live and be happy and healthy. He's healthy. That's what saved us, people. He was cocky. He was the class clown at the hospital. As soon as he woke up, that was it. It was game on. It was back to the old Amari, right? And he knew where he was, and he knew that he had to perform if he wanted to come home. But just by nature, he's a happy child. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If the world could be as happy as Amari, the world would be a better place. And that's just the bottom line, okay? But once he realized where he was, he knew that he had to show them that he could, be himself and happy and move around and be chatty and, and communicate, whatever, to let them know that he was okay because he knows the routine, he knows the drill, he's been there before. Then he gets to come home. Only this time they wanted, because of the weight loss, right? They wanted to do the blood tests and with the seizure because he's getting longer. He's getting longer, but he's not putting on the quote weight. Losing his teeth, things are growing. But then when they realize how active he is, nonstop, at all hours, they wanted to give him the EGG when he was sleep deprived. I said, sleep deprived? I said, what does that mean? Because I guess they're calmer and they get a better reading when they're sleep deprived because once they fall asleep, they're so deprived of sleep, they fall asleep, right? And then they hook them up, and I guess they don't move as much, they're not chatty, whatever, they get a better reading. I said, good luck doing that. I said, we'll be here for you. Amari doesn't sleep very much, and just whatever. I don't know, when do you plan on doing it? Well, tonight. We're going to do it, after midnight when he's sleeping. I'll be like, no, that doesn't work like that with Amari. Chances are he'll be bouncing around, hollering and screaming and laughing and giggling. Oh, I said, yeah, welcome to my world. And because he had been so active from the time he woke up until the doctor showed up, right? Communicating and just doing whatever, pulling himself up and, just whatever, right? Eating his food and just being his happy little self. The doctor told him, I don't think you're going to find that opportunity to do that with him because you don't know when he's going to want to fall asleep. Good luck. So they ended up settling just for a normal EEG. Yeah. And because he was who he is, what could they say? He's not neglected. He's not abused. He's definitely not sick. He's not weak in terms of lethargic and no energy and not motivated. No, he's all the opposite. All the opposite. So, we're home. And now the onus is on me to fatten him up. It's always been on me to fatten him up. So, I don't care what people say. Mrs. Gill, there's weeds, yeah, but Mrs. Gill, my grandson could die. Do you not understand that? He's so skinny. He could die. He could die just being skinny and nothing. But if he has to have surgery, oh my God, he needs body fat. So I have to do this, people. I have to. I've been doing it, but I have to put, instead of putting in 200%, I have to put in 1,000%. Because if I can't get it to that 1,000% and prove to the doctors that this, and this, so that they've got something solid to work with to say, well, if you've been doing all this and it's legit and he's still not gaining weight, then we're having to deal with something else that only a doctor could figure out outside of. And that's kind of, and I've been there with this situation with Amari for a while. I can rule out he has the ability to digest fats. How do I know that? Because when I was speaking to the dietitian, when we were at the hospital, she said that if he couldn't digest fats in his poo, it would be oily. Amari doesn't have that problem. So he can digest fats. So that's one issue ruled out of the equation in terms of why he doesn't gain a lot of weight. But he burns a lot of calories. Yeah, he burns a lot of calories. So this is where I have to step up my game. Not only do I have to think about foods that are easy to digest, but I have to think about how do I give him those foods at certain parts of the day in combination with foods that are harder to digest but have more calories or different nutrients. I have to find that sweet balance, which is very hard to do. I have to increase his portion size, which, could potentially become problematic because the fuller he gets, the less he poops. Eventually there's no room left in his stomach, and even though he eats it, within a few hours he'll puke it up, which could very well cause a seizure. There's that. It has happened. Yeah. So you're on this roller coaster all the time. And then, of course, because I've got nobody helping me basically wash dishes and do this, do, because Andre likes to scatter, bury, put things up high on a shelf like a fucking sausage way in the living room, as if. I said, what, is that your science experiment? Are you waiting for the maggots to move in? And no wonder why there was a fly flying around. Like, come on, Andre, give your head a break, right? A shake, come on. What would Marcaine do? If he had to live with that special, what would be the excuse? There'd be no excuse. Andre's 14 years old. Grow the hell up. You're so smart. Figure out how to play a flute. Versus how to shoot somebody. And then get moody with me when I try and say, time out. Take a break from it. Pay attention to the real things in life. Get in touch with fucking reality. Life is work. Get used to it. The older you get, the harder you work, and that's the truth. And it's almost like the less people appreciate you, the older you get too, but they expect you to continue to work. And then they don't value what you do as work. As they're plotting and scheming to take things away from you because you're getting older and maybe slightly disabled. In my situation, going blind. You can't win for losing. No. So you do what you can in a day. So that's what I'm going to do. But I got an upset stomach. So hopefully that will go away soon.